All right, folks, we're talking the Michael Blackson show. Just like the video I did talking about Caught Up, I figured that based on the fact that these, new series only have 4 episodes and each one is give or take 20, 23 minutes or so, it really isn't much to go off of in terms of me doing countless videos. Okay, I'm going to do a video for each episode, yet each episode doesn't really give us a lot to work with, so I figured it best just to do like one big video where I talk about all 4 episodes as a whole, give my series overview, talk about some of my favorite parts about the series, like, hey, here are some standout characters, what I think of acting, this, that, and the third. And then I end things with the all important question of, does this show, should it get a season 2? Now, if I were to give this show a score, I know this seems a bit low, I would give it a 4 out of 10. I think that when you look at the Michael Blackson show, the concept of this is, look, there's probably more, but I think there's 3 total where we have these well-known comedians who are given their own sitcom comedy series, and it revolves around them playing a character who portrays a high school teacher to some either underprivileged youth or those who are, not the best and brightest students, the rowdiest bunch. You had Steve Harvey with the Steve Harvey Show. He used to be the famous, singer in his group, Steve Hightower and the High Tops. And, then he eventually taught music at a high school. Then you had Netflix. This was just a few years ago. Mr. Iglesias, Gabriel Iglesias, he portrayed a similar kind of teacher to a class of students who were on the verge of, not graduating, I believe. Pretty much students who, really weren't the best and brightest, even though there were some, smart ones in there. They just, for whatever reason, had a hard time learning. That lasted for a few seasons on Netflix. Now you have Michael Blackson with his own show. And Tyler Perry was the producer of this show. I think Mark Swinton, who is well known for writing a bunch of house painting and assisted living, he wrote the show. Now, if you aren't a fan of Michael Blackson comedy, I don't think you'll like this show. But I think one of the shining points for me were just seeing familiar faces. For example, Miss Tina Randolph, portrayed by the same actress who portrayed Natalie on If Loving You Is Wrong. If I'm not mistaken, the name is April Parker Jones. So I do like that aspect of Tyler. And then we also get a Irv, who is portrayed by the same actor that plays Peanut on House of Pain. If I'm not mistaken, his name is what's the name? Clayton English. So I do love seeing familiar faces from other Tyler Perry projects and new projects. So that's pretty cool. But overall, I feel like this show has a lot more misses than hits on the comedy. I think where this show does shine is when we get little moments where, Mr. Black, aka Michael Black. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, Michael Blackson. I see what they did there. So Mr. Black is talking to the job skill class, and apparently this just a group of heathens, they did a number on their last teacher. Apparently they sent her to a padded room. They're just some badass kids. I don't even know how else to describe it. So Michael is late for his first day on the job after a one night stand, and Mrs. Moon, I believe, is the name of the landlord, and she's always coming around, having her moments with Michael, asking for the rent, trying to roast him and whatnot. So from there, he gets to work late, and we're introduced to some characters like, Miss Randolph, Miss Reed, who's like the, secretary at the front desk who has an attitude, always quick to tell somebody she's married. We meet some different characters like the classmates. I'll get to them later. Later on in the teacher's lounge, we get like a volunteer named Harold. We get Miss Walker, who's a teacher, and the sassy black women. I've seen some people online feel like the show did a bad job portraying, a lot of black females, the sassy, unprofessional attitudes and whatnot. I can see where people would, get that idea. I mean, when you look at the Steve Harvey show, you had Regina, who was the bougie, sophisticated principal, and then you had Labita, the ghetto, ratchet, loud mouth, secretary. So there was a nice balance between the two. In this situation, a number of the female characters have the stereotypical, attitude of a black woman. So from there, Mr. Black goes into the class, and everybody's like, hey, don't turn your back on those job skill kids, be on guard at all times. So when he gets in there, they just throw stuff at him, they egg him, and then they start roasting him, but he just goes off and claps back on all of them, which I thought that was pretty cool. That was hilarious. But then the episode ends with Miss Randolph coming in there, and then the kids act like, oh no, he was mean and he said all these things. So basically, it turns out the principal hears about this, and Black is sent home. But before that, he does take a moment to sit in the cafeteria, and he's sitting at the nerd table. You got three characters there. Carson, who I believe is in the most episodes out of the bunch. You have Lisa, who is in episode 1. She's like a model student who's on her way to visit a college soon. And you got LTK, I believe that was his name, like Lies to Kids or something. That was the initials for it. But essentially, they're trying to start a robotics club to enter a competition. But the thing is, they need at least 7 people in the group, and there's no way they're going to recruit anybody. Plus, on top of that, they need to be identified as a club by having at least 7 people, then have a teacher to, pretty much, be their overseer, and then they can get sponsorship from the school in order to go to the competition. So Black gives them, some, pointers on how to make an effective flyer to get people to want to see what they have to offer as a club. And it's like, interested in sex, then come to the robotics club or something to that effect. And after being sent home, the principal, sees the posters, and he goes off, and Black's like, I'm getting the hell out of here. So he rushes out. So from there, you have, Irv coming over, talking with Michael about the situation. And yeah, apparently he's 3 weeks late on rent as well. It's pretty much his landlord making fun of him. School is still in session. What, did you get fired on your first day? Yeah, that kind of sucks. You're late on your first day. You potentially get fired on your first day. So he actually gets a phone call saying to come back in tomorrow. And he comes in, and the class is, there's a different mood. They basically say, you know what, hey, we played nice, with the principal and whatnot in order to get you back, because we ain't done with you yet. We want to get you back for roasting us. So from there, the class actually has some interesting conversations with Blackson. There are a few roasts here and there, but we don't spend too much time on that. It turns out that robotics club, the flyer idea blew up, and as a result, they vouch for, Mr. Black, saying, oh yeah, he's going to be our faculty sponsor, and he's the one who helped us out. And, the principal was impressed that on his first day, Michael was able to, get a club assembled on campus. So that was a good thing. So from there, after being introduced to everybody in the teacher's lounge, and he steps out, it turns out there was a pool between the the faculty on how long Black would actually last on the job. So that's pretty much 2 episodes right there I described. So episode 3 starts off with Blackson having sex with another woman. It turns out this woman is a not single. So we find out Rodney is this woman's I think husband, or boyfriend, baby daddy. I don't know what their relationship is. I forgot. But essentially, he comes in, and Michael has to pretend he's a gay hairdresser, give an ass whooping. So, Irv comes in, and in exchange for like free weed for like a year, he pretends to be Michael's partner. And then the roommate comes in. They pretty much, play it up so, Michael doesn't get killed. So from there, we go over to the school, and a bully named Bruno is taking Carson's lunch until Michael comes in to defend him, and then Miss Randolph catches, what's going on, and sends the bully to the principal's office. And from there, he speaks to the class about a speech tomorrow. Look, I want everybody to come in here, tell me a little bit about yourself, and that's pretty much it. Like, believe it or not, I think the most we really spend in the classroom is when Michael first gets there and he's roasting the kids for roasting him. Other than that, we get brief moments of, the classroom dynamic. So Michael goes to see Randolph for the conference with the bully, and it turns out Bruno's dad is actually Rodney, the same man who was over at the apartment earlier, and he's under the impression that Michael is, gay. So that's kind of a rumor going around the school in regards to him being a hairdresser and whatnot. And from there, he gets home, and Herb is there smoking weed. The landlord comes by thinking that Michael's gay, and, Herb is the partner. So she asks for, advice about a date she has about what to wear. So later on, the class is, asking questions like, okay, so we all got up and spoke, and you got to know us better. Can we know something about you? So they ask questions about, were you made fun of back in the day? And when Michael is answering the questions, thinking it has to do with like his, skin tone, the way he speaks, but the underlying message is, yeah, I think because of rumors circulating around the school, they think Michael is gay. So it's like, so what was it for you growing up in this and that and the third? But it's never really explained. So I think there was a moment where when he's in the teacher's lounge, they think that he does hair, and one of the teachers asks for like an appointment, but he's like, I can't help you. So from there, the episode ends with Carson getting beat up by Bruno, and then, they call an ambulance for him. So then we get to episode 4. The nerds are setting up cafeteria flyers. Apparently there's like a family night event at the school, but when Michael brings it up to the class, they don't want to be a part of it because, a lot of them come from like broken homes, so they really don't have families. And there is a touching moment with the class at the end of the episode, but I'll say that for the end of the review. So essentially, a guy rolls up looking like he's a potential school shooter, and it turns out it's Carson in disguise, wearing dark shades, black hoodie and whatnot, because Bruno is getting back from his extended suspension, which hints at episode 4 taking place a good amount of time after episode 3. That's pretty wild. So, in the midst of Bruno popping back up, as the teachers are, encouraging Carson, because he makes a good point. Actually, I'll get to that point in a minute, but Bruno pops up, and before he can start some stuff, because, Michael was defending Carson, when he was roasting him about his mom, about, I had sex with your mother and this, I had her bent over in that. Turns out Rodney was standing behind him the whole time. So they get into it. And when Michael looks like he's about to take a beat down, he actually pulls out some, good tactics from biting and poking and whatnot. And that ends up throwing Rodney off his game. And then the principal comes to break it up, and, Rodney flees. So the class actually is giving it up to Michael. Like, yeah, you did it, Mr. Black, you did it. Yeah. And he's like, hey, don't follow my example. Because, it's like, well, yeah, I get it, say don't fight, but in that situation, you were defending yourself. So in any case, Carson comes to the, like the principal's office or whatever. I think he's talking with Randolph and Michael and everybody, basically saying that he wants to leave because, look, you demonstrated, fight or flight response. For you fought Mr. Black, but for me, it's like, I'll just go to a different program, because I think later in the episode he talks about how, look, there's like a GPA like scholastic program I can go to, because I just don't want to be here dealing with the anxiety that comes from the Bruno possibly coming at me again. So they convince him to stay an extra day just to kind of think things through instead of running. And he makes a good point. He's like, look, I appreciate everybody doing what they can, like, saying how you don't deal with bullies and whatnot, but that doesn't really help. Just because you administrators say that you don't put up with bullying and whatnot, it doesn't stop bullying from happening. And it turns out, like, there are a lot of other kids that get bullied too. So yeah, it's like you can suspend somebody, but they're going to be back in school before you know it, and nothing's going to change. Sometimes it's just worse. And that actually is a valid point. So from there, Bruno's dad steps to his son at their place, basically upset at him because the cops came around asking him questions. He's on probation and whatnot, and he's not going back to the pen. So he leaves it to Bruno to, take care of Blackson and Carson. And he's like, if you don't do it, I'm going to take care of you too. So he pretty much beats on his son. So Irv actually stops by the class. I think Blackson or Black is on detention duty. And that's when Carson comes by saying how he wants to leave. But, they pretty much encourage him to stay. And I did like it when Mr. Black asked the 2 students to walk him home. I did like that. That was pretty good. So then we come to the final scene of the series where the family night is a flop because nobody's showing up. But then Black comes in with a bunch of his students like, look, we might not have the best family, structures at home, but we're family as a tribe. So they all have a great time, playing games and whatnot until Bruno limps in and everybody's like, we ain't, no. This is a nice event. You ain't going to come in here causing trouble. But he pretty much warns, everybody that, hey, you know what? My dad's coming to kill Carson and he's coming to kill Mr. Black too. And then the principal tells everybody to go lock the doors and the series comes to a close. So yeah, that's pretty interesting how we both shows both caught up in the Michael Blackson show end on cliffhangers where somebody's about to come over and cause trouble, and caught up with Wayne, and in this show it's Rodney. So what did I think? Like I said, this show had some good elements to it, mainly in regards to the kids and their relationship with Mr. Black, but I don't really think that I don't think it needs a season 2. I think there was an okay attempt, but I maybe if there was more time, but I just feel like I've seen a lot of shows like this. I mean, you reach a certain point in television where it's hard not to retread charted territory, but I was hoping for that one thing that would make this show stand out from the rest. It has some interesting messages in it, but it came a bit too late for me. Like, episode 4 was really where things, I feel like that was the best episode. From the moment where all the kids, decided to be a tribe, to Carson expressing what it's like to be bullied in school, and you can lay out all the rules and policies all you want, but it doesn't really change anything. And yeah, the sad story of Bruno, the fact that he's being abused by his dad, physically and mentally, because he had a hard life himself. So while the show does have a bit of potential, I don't think it has enough in terms of staying power. So that's why I give it a 4 out of 10. Let me know what you think. Maybe you thought it was hilarious. Like I said, I thought there were a couple of moments that were funny, but really the comedy really didn't land for me. It really didn't do it for me. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on the Michael Blackson show. I think one of the best scenes was obviously episode 1, where like the kids are roasting him, but then Mr. Black comes back and just claps back on all of them. But I just feel like, aside from the bullying, it's like a lot of blind eyes being turned to the job skills class. It's like, how many teachers have been terrorized by this class, and when you have a bunch of employees who say like, hey, don't turn your back to the class, yet you have Ms. Randolph coming in there acting like the kids are the victims when she catches Mr. Black saying one or two things that were crossed. It's like, so how naive is this woman? Like, I mean, for you to not see what's really going on here. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think it was alright, but I don't need more. I don't need more. That's just personally how I feel. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.